I still remember the clink of fine china and the sound of their laughter. Laughter that cut deeper than any knife ever could. My name is Eleanor Grace, and for 3 years I tried so hard to belong in a world that was never meant for me. My husband, Richard Harrington, came from one of the oldest families in the city. Old money, private schools, summer homes by the lake. I was just me, a quiet girl from a small town who once worked as a florist. Richard used to say my simplicity was refreshing, until it wasn't. That afternoon, I stood in front of the mirror adjusting my soft cream dress, the one I thought was elegant. I wanted to make him proud. His mother, Margaret, had personally invited me to her exclusive spring tea party. "It's time you met the ladies properly, dear," she had said with that tight, polite smile. I was nervous. My hands trembled as I pinned my hair. But I was hopeful too. Maybe this would be the day they finally accepted me. When I arrived at the Grand Manor, the garden was perfect. White roses everywhere, string lights twinkling even in daylight, and tables dressed in lace and silver. 12 women turned their heads as I walked in, 12 pairs of eyes that scanned me from head to toe. The whispers started immediately. "Oh my, bless her heart. Is that dress from last season?" I smiled anyway, the way I always did. I took my seat at the table, my cheeks already burning. Then came the questions. "Eleanor, darling, where did you say your family was from again?" Lady Victoria asked, stirring her tea slowly. Before I could answer, someone else giggled. "I heard she used to arrange flowers for a living." How quaint. They didn't even try to hide it. The laughter rippled around the table like poison in honey. Richard was standing near the fountain with the other husbands. He glanced over, met my eyes for half a second, and then looked away. He laughed with them. That was the moment something inside me cracked. I sat there, hands folded in my lap, while they tore apart everything I was. My accent, my lack of boarding school stories, the way I held my teacup. Every small thing became ammunition. And the worst part? They were enjoying it. They were bonding over my humiliation. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to run. But I stayed. I smiled through the pain like the polite wife I had been trained to be. What I didn't know that day was that their cruelty had only just begun. 2 days later, I found the first message. I wasn't trying to snoop. Richard had left his laptop open while he was in the shower. A single notification lit up the screen. A message from Victoria. "You really should have warned us about her, darling. She was even more pathetic than we imagined. Poor thing actually thought she belonged." My heart stopped. I scrolled up. There were weeks of messages. Not just Victoria, Margaret too. Even a few other ladies from the tea party. They had a group chat titled Project Refresh. The goal? To make my life so uncomfortable that I would leave Richard willingly. They didn't want a divorce scandal. They wanted me gone quietly. But the worst betrayal wasn't from them. It was from my husband. In one message, Richard had written, "Do what you need to do. Just keep it elegant. I'm tired of explaining her to people. The man who once promised to protect me had handed me over to the wolves." I didn't cry that night. I sat on the edge of our king-sized bed in the dark, staring at the moon through the tall windows, feeling something shift inside my chest. The shy, hopeful Eleanor died right there. Someone colder, quieter, and far more dangerous took her place. I started digging. At first it was just pain driving me. Then it became something else, clarity. I discovered that Victoria's husband had been laundering money through fake charities. Margaret had been siphoning funds from her own family foundation for years. And my dear husband? He had been sleeping with Victoria for 14 months. The tea party wasn't just about humiliating me. It was a celebration of their affair. Every late meeting, every business trip, every time he told me, I was imagining things. It all clicked into place. I could have confronted him. I could have screamed, thrown things, demanded a divorce. But that would have been too easy. They had laughed at me in front of everyone. They had stripped me of my dignity in public. So I decided they would lose everything in public too. I spent the next 3 months becoming the woman they never thought I could be. I hired a discreet private investigator. I copied documents. I made quiet phone calls to people who owed my late father favors, people even Richard didn't know about. My father may have been a simple man, but he was honest, and he had helped many powerful people in his time. The old Eleanor was gone. The new one was patient, and she was watching. The night of the Harrington Foundation Gala arrived, the biggest event of the social season. Everyone who had laughed at me was there, dressed in diamonds and designer gowns, smiling like royalty. I wore red, not soft cream this time. A deep, powerful crimson gown that turned heads for all the right reasons. Richard looked surprised when he saw me. For the first time in months, he really looked at me. The program began. Speeches about charity and legacy. Then the host announced a special presentation. New evidence of financial misconduct within several prominent families. The room went silent as the large screens lit up. Documents, bank transfers, private messages, everything. Victoria's face turned ghostly white. Margaret dropped her champagne glass. And Richard? Richard looked at me with pure terror as my name appeared as the source of the exposé. I stood up slowly, microphone in hand. You all laughed at me at that tea party, I said, my voice steady and clear. You mocked my clothes, my background, my love for your son. You thought I was weak. You thought I was nothing. I looked straight at Victoria. You were wrong. Security quietly escorted Victoria and her husband out. Margaret was already crying. Richard tried to reach for my arm, but I stepped away. I'm not the one who needs to leave, I told him softly. You do. By the next morning, the scandal was everywhere. Their reputations were destroyed. The old money empire they worshipped began to crumble. Richard lost his position on the board. The house was in my name, something he never bothered to check. He received divorce papers at his hotel. I kept the manor. I kept the foundation. And I kept my peace. Now when I sit in the same garden where they once laughed at me, I don't feel anger anymore. I feel free. If there's one thing I want you to remember from my story, it's this: never mistake kindness for weakness. Never laugh at a woman who is sitting quietly, taking it all in. Because the moment you think she's broken, she might just be rewriting the entire story. And sometimes, the softest hearts create the most unforgettable revenge. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, remember, your dignity is never up for discussion. Protect it, and never be afraid to become the woman they never saw coming.